what you're looking for when you're fencing is you're having trouble moving backwards as well as forwards.
Yeah, I don't go as quickly. I take shorter steps.
Okay.
At least that's what it feels like.
Okay, so keep distance with me. I'll pretend like I'm cutting. Take a step back. Okay, now you come forward as if you were cutting. Yeah, you do. You do take significantly bigger steps forward than backwards. So let's improve your comfort with that. Go ahead and lie on the floor on your side.
Does it matter which side?
No, whichever one's most comfortable. I got that.
Okay.
All right. What I want you to do is really, really simple. Now, you have to keep an upper body alignment when you step and turn because doing things with your saber, right?
Yes.
So I want you to pull, see how I'm pulling you back?
Yes.
And I'm having your shoulder and your hips go backwards together.
Correct.
Okay. I'm gonna move your legs slightly just to get you in a position where you've got slightly better support. And I want you to pull backwards with your hip and feel how that carries the shoulder backwards.
Yeah, it does.
Okay. As you do that, feel how you're raising your knee?
Yes.
That's wasted effort. So play with how soft you can leave that leg so that you leave that effort behind. Can you do it once where you raise your knee and once where you don't lift your knee at all?
Raise my knee.
Yeah. Now don't raise your knee.
Yeah, it's hard to do it with it.
Yeah. Because you've got this compulsive notion that if your hip turns, you must engage these muscles, right?
Okay.
So go back and forth a number of times.
This is related to moke walk.
It's closely related to the monk walk exercise. Yep. See if you can leave your knees together. That means you may have to move a little smaller.
Oh, okay.
Really make sure your hips are in charge and your shoulders just come along for the ride. So right now you're not letting your shoulders move at all. So if your hip rolls forward, let the shoulder come forward too. In a very real sense, it's like you're rolling back and forth on the floor. Congratulations, you have become a human cucumber. I'm super disappointed in those videos where you put a cucumber on the floor and your cat jumps and gets scared because I do that and my cats just stare at me like, I'm not eating that.
No, who discovered that? And what's wrong with their cat?
Okay. So you started to really move right from here, which is good. But there's sort of a Yankee quality to it.
Yeah.
It's not smooth. See how smooth you can make that.
Yeah, we don't want any darn Yankees.
Don't go for the gusto in terms of range of motion. The range of motion is literally irrelevant, especially compared to the quality of the movement. If you go so far that you have no choice but to raise your knee, you've gone too far.
Okay.
What you want is fine control over how you turn that hip. Good. Come to your other side, face the camera, try the same thing. Boom. And you'll see on this side it's different. Might be better, might be harder. You definitely hold your legs differently on this side. Now remember what I said about yanking those knees apart, right? Let your leg be relaxed. Go slowly and gently. You're looking for smooth, not large. You're looking for smooth, not powerful. You want to refine the control of these muscles and these muscles. Now let your shoulders start going along for the ride. So you're just oscillating back and forth. A cucumber on a ship's deck on a day when the sea is calm. Let the shoulder move. Put your hand anywhere you like to support it, but I'm going to recommend, just for the easiest support, that you be about here.
Oh, I was trying to keep it so that I don't push off it, so that I don't cheat.
You don't have to push off with your hand.
Okay.
You can have your hand here, and if your waist is doing the work,
Yeah. We'll just,
there's no pushing off involved. You'll feel the joint angle change, but there's absolutely nothing that says you have to use that arm at all. It's providing you support simply because those bones are acting like struts. So right now you're kind of efforting to figure out how to coordinate your hips and your shoulders. That's fine. If you need something for under your head, let me know. I've got cushions and things.
yeah, I'm fine with that. It just occurred to me I'm better off if I make sure my back is straight.
Pardon the minor construction noises. The whole building is getting modified. All right, now have the same idea and try leading from the shoulder just for counterpoint. What's it like if you lead from the shoulder but let your hip go along for the right? Good. Leave those knees together. Ah. Now what you're doing is bowing and arching the back,
Yeah.
as opposed to bringing the shoulder back. Feel how that's different?
Yes.
Okay, so bring the shoulder back. Ah, your hip roll, because balance and counterbalance.
Okay. Yeah.
So initiate from the shoulder and let the hip follow along. This comes from a very old lesson called hip and shoulder circles, which in my opinion is one of the most underrated lessons Moshe Feldenkrais ever came up with. I could teach for 10 years solid with nothing but variations on this lesson and have it be meaningful. Okay, rest.
From the back. There we go.
Rest, rest, rest.
Whoa.
Yeah, let your lizard brain, motor cortex do 5 or 10,000 reps while you chill out. We have one gnat has flown into the studio. It's driving me insane. On the other hand, it's got a 10-day life cycle, so I can let it live for a while. All right, now, when you are ready and not before, roll to one side and come to your feet, and there's absolutely 0.0 rush. Because video editing, I have the luxury of just fading out and fading in when you're ready.
Yeah, but
So
I'm
don't
comfortable
come-
here, so I'm like,
Right,
oh,
stay
for
there.
a couple hours.
Stay there until you feel like you're motivated and ready and happy to come off the floor.
A couple hours.
You can notice as you breathe, what do you do with your hips and shoulders? This will help you stay in alignment on both sides as well, by the way. Turn your shoulder and allow the hip to cooperate. It will fuel your steps.
I feel like though I'm not straight.
You don't have to be straight.
Yeah, but I feel like I should be. Well, right now I'm just resting.
Let that go. There's no such thing as a symmetrical human being. I can prove this on an Etch-a-Sketch.
Oh, my ex-wife. I mean, I know that.
Yeah, your ex-wife was a very high-end tailor. She certainly knows all this stuff.
That's what made her good. What she did.
She wasn't trying to force people into symmetry. You're also not lying straight on the carpet, so don't even try. Any sense of trying to fit yourself as a perfect rectangle into your environment is going to be failed.
No, I was just trying to keep this part lined up.
Yep. See, that's being performative, not actually resting. When you rest, give yourself permission to just take up space. See what you notice. If you notice you have a slight twist, great. Notice that you have a slight twist. Don't try to repair that slight twist. You've got it for a reason. I have a slight twist because I have a flat spot on the back of my head. And that flat spot has predisposed me to turn to the right for years and years and years. Probably since I was an infant.
If I'm laying in my bed at night on my back, I will Actually, I learned to kind of, okay, go down and get everything kind of straightened out as much as.
Yeah, don't worry about that. Not relevant now. The more you try to force yourself into an abstract pattern, the less you're paying attention to what you just learned by doing the exercise. So it's really important that you don't try to satisfy some abstract artificial demand.
No, it's just an attempt at reducing the twist and all that kind of stuff that I feel usually.
That's literally what I'm talking about right now.
Oh, okay. But that's not worrying about the pattern, that's just worrying about comfort. I feel fairly straight now, but it's probably time.
All right, so roll to one side, come on up. All right, so keep distance with me. So scooch back slightly. There we go. So I'll pretend to make a cut. You step backwards. What'd that feel like?
Well, the second step, I like, whoa, I'm a little bit out of balance. I'm like, why? Then I'm like, oh, maybe I step further.
You did. You stepped further than you're used to, and you let your mobility be in charge. You allowed yourself to have backwards momentum. So step backwards again, just one step. Hop. So step backwards again, one step. Now your step is significantly larger. It's almost twice as long. Now step forwards.
Really?
Yeah, look.
Well, I never looked before.
Okay.
I had no frame of reference.
I'll show you on the camera later. There you go. So you're walking a little bit too far there because you have to be up on your toes.
Yeah.
So if you're going to make a cut too, and you're going to step towards me, hop, and you step one more time, pop. Now I step in, pop, step in, pop, and you can step.
That one was further. Not skis, but it was further.
It was, and it looked very comfortable.
Yeah, it was.
So how's them apples?
So how do I maintain this?
What you just did, you can easily do lying in bed anytime you want. Just practice leading from the hip and letting the shoulder go along for the ride. Practice leading from the shoulder, let the hip go along for the ride.
Okay.
Okay. There's one other thing I want to show you that you can do. Lie on your back. Okay, stand your feet so your knees are bent and pointed towards the ceiling. Now, without moving your right foot, drape your left knee over your right knee like you're a lady wearing a skirt. Okay, so.
Oh!
All right.
That crossed my mind, but I'm like, no.
Yeah, what you did was bring your right knee to touch your left knee. It's different.
Yeah, well, I was trying to drape it over.
All right, so at this position, what I want you to do is to begin to sag your knee towards your left. But I'm going to ask you to do it a special way. Right now, your toes here are pointed kind of towards the ceiling.
Right.
Your heel has a facing towards your left butt cheek.
Correct.
Okay. In relation to the room, your heel is pretty vertical, right?
Okay.
Okay, so take this knee and start sagging in that direction. Now the camera can pick this up. And I'm just showing you with the hand. Okay, now the azimuth for your heel is very different. It doesn't point towards your butt at all. Now it's pointing over that way.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay, so come back up to where you were. Don't go excess the other way. We're not going to come out like that. Okay, you're just going to come to here, and you're going to sag in and notice the change in angle of your heel. Now the camera can pick it up, and I can see it, but you're twisting through your torso as you do this. You're allowing the weight of your legs to both help your midsection learn how to change shape more easily, and because you're paying attention to the facing of your heel, you're teaching yourself how to use your right leg to support a change in shape and direction of your left leg. You're coordinating both sides. Now, there's some complicated arching that goes on. Again, it's not about the size of the motion. The size of the motion is literally irrelevant. I have a client, really nice Turkish lady. She closes her eyes and she feels like she's moving incredible distances. Literal distance, 1.5 inches. But there's so much to sense inside these joint angle changes that it feels to her like she's going to come right off my table. Keep your right foot on the ground, don't let it roll up. There you go. Now change it over and try the other way. So left foot now comes to the ground. Okay, now bring both feet to the ground. Notice how your feet are right close together?
Yeah.
So instead, you want to have left foot to the original position. Stand still. Okay, that mosquito will bother no one ever again. We got that thump on camera too, so you're really tough.
I'm being abused.
Now drape your right knee over your left knee.
You're supposed to say heel. My right knee over my left knee. Right?
Yep, do not cheat your left foot back in.
Oh.
There you go. Now do the same thing and pay attention to where your right heel faces. And come back up. Now in this case, you made the very intelligent move of cocking your heel inward, and I'm going to encourage you not to, so that you have to feel what you're doing with the shape of your foot as you leave it on the floor.
So by cocking my heel, you mean I took my heel and rotated it like
That's right.
this on the ground.
That's right.
So that it would.
And I'm going to ask you not to do that so that you're forced to sense, rather than pre-shifting the position of your foot, how your foot can change shape.
Is it cocked now?
No.
Okay.
You could, in fact, play with just as at home to learn how to get voluntary control over your arches. So you move your foot with the same motility as you move your waist or your hand.
Immobile arches are my arch enemy.
Many people. So far, I have a 100% success rate with flat feet. Everyone who's come to me for flat foot help gets the help, is satisfied, goes away. I never see them again, but they're happy. All right. Notice the facing change of your right heel. Now it's pointing towards the floor. As you sag towards the right, that heel begins to face towards me instead. Yeah, now it's facing my right foot. Now it's facing the floor again. Go back and forth a couple times. The size of the movement is absolutely irrelevant. Good. All right, leave that, rest. All right, step back slightly so we get a nice distance. Okay, here we go. And step forwards. Step forwards. Step back twice. Step forwards twice. Notice your shoulders turning?
No. But I was noticing if I feel different, my forward steps, I feel like everything's shifting a little bit different now.
Yes. You're starting to let your shoulders turn as you step. So I step here, boom. Now come forward twice.
Okay.
Pop, pop.
Ah.
You cheated your foot out. That's okay. So now you've got, don't do that yet. Monk's walk's a separate exercise. You could choose to leave that shoulder behind and step like this.
Mm-hmm.
were to have this foot come forward and counter rotate, this is what you would do if you were jogging or running or walking a long distance. That counter rotation, big human birthright, makes us very efficient over long distances. So let your shoulders turn a little bit more. There you go. Good, have a seat.
Well, it's interesting because in my case, I'm a very visual person.
Mm-hmm.
So I close my eyes and kind of see what I'm doing, because if I don't see it, I can't tell which muscle's doing what. I mean, that's because I'm not so tactile and I'm having to learn to identify.
Mm-hmm.
But as I identify the muscles, oh, that's what that feeling is. Oh, that's what that feeling is.
Mm-hmm.
Then that helps me then, A, to know my body better, but then and to read it better, but then that also will help with my control, because I will be aware a lot more.
You can also visualize better.
Yeah,
When you're doing things and you don't know that you're doing them, you can't visualize them.
correct.
The problem with going to a visual frame of reference and just imagining movement without sensing movement is you can only do what's inside your imagination.
Yeah, I need to connect this with the rest of me for it to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the whole point, that make everything work together. But I'm so out of touch individually with my body muscles for the most part, that just without thinking and identifying, isolating them, it's hard to just pick out which signal's which.
Yeah.
So probably need to cut this out for your thing, but one of the ways, like, I can wiggle my ears.
Mm-hmm.
I never knew I could do that, never had any idea. Then one day I noticed sometimes my glasses pulled up, sometimes they stayed down. I'm like, oh, you know, oh. I could see external stimulus, and once there was a stimulus there, then I could, where is that muscle motor path going? And so now I can do it without the glasses.
And that's all I've done here. Is you had that step in the first couple of minutes. All the second thing we did was just icing on the cake to help you get a little bit further in. So once you had the idea that you could turn from the hip rather than trying to yank your whole leg to the side,
Mm-hmm.
that was what you needed. So let me show you what it looked like from the outside so you can look at it. You were lying down on the floor and you went to turn your hip and you did this. And there's nothing wrong with doing that if it's what you want to do.
Yeah.
As opposed to turning your hip and just not bothering with the other muscles.
Yeah. It looks like we're isolating very specifically what we're trying to learn and
Yeah, you're trying to individuate it. Your sense of how to turn your hip was this.
yeah.
The hip joint wasn't actually doing anything. You were turning the whole pelvis. So instead of a leg and a pelvis, you had a pelvis. By focusing on how do I turn from the hip joint in here, which you mostly sense from the greater trochanter up here, because that's where the muscle connection and all the nerves are. As you practice sensing how this moves, it becomes easier and easier to leave the leg behind, and easier to play with. Does the shoulder lead or do the hips lead? Make sense?
Yeah. Now, in real life, regular day-to-day life,
Mm-hmm.
what times is it more important for me to lead with my shoulder than my hips? Is there any times that you could recommend that? Would that?
Cut a tomato. You're totally leading with your shoulder.
Okay.
But if you allow your hip to be part of the movement, your body weight cuts the tomato for you.
Okay. So it's just whenever it's convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
There aren't motions that, lead with your shoulders, lead with your hips. In regular life, maybe in swordsmanship, but in regular life.
So for what I do, I lead from my pelvis all the time, or as often as I can manage. It's important if I'm lifting and moving people all the day. I don't want to wear out my arms. Eventually, you come to a place where your backside provides the power. And your backside and the turning of your pelvis provides your power pretty much all the time.
Big muscles.
Big muscles, right. But in the meantime, if you can initiate from here, there are plenty of reasons why you might want to initiate from here. I might not want to turn my pelvis if I'm doing this. If I'm driving, I might not want to turn my pelvis and accidentally step on the gas while I'm checking a blind spot.
Or when we're sword fighting, one of the things I realized the latest exercise we're doing, where I was having all the problems, was going really fast, but I found myself almost trying to keep that shuffle. It's just I was going too fast to maintain it. But in that scenario, working like this would probably be a little bit better.
You'll have a much easier time. And you'll have a much easier time keeping the foot alignment we need in our fencing system now that you're able to individuate your hip from your leg.
Because I want to keep my eye on my enemy.
Right. So instead
friend with
of
a sword.
isolating, we tend to use the phrase individuating. You're helping your nervous system learn that femur and pelvis are different parts.
Yeah.
And that you've got a joint here that lets you move it in either direction. Really handy.
Yeah. Oh, here's this muzzle I found today.
Right. It's called your butt.
Really? Is that my
Depending
gluteus maximus doing that?
If you pull this way and you leave the leg behind, it's gluteus medius and minimus.
Oh, okay.
If you go the other way, if the angle from the center line to the leg gets bigger, then it's gluteus maximus because it's the abductor. Want to see it in action for a different exercise?
Sure.
Okay. Stand.